Let's see, is this thing Yes, we are recording now. Okay, very good. Was having some audio difficulty for a moment. Hello, my name is Gavin. I am the audiophile wannabe, and thank you for joining me for today's episode. On the last episode, I covered installing a pair of GR Research tube connectors into a pair of Klipsch Forte 1 speakers. And today, I'd like to cover another project I did this past weekend, which was installing a pair of Dayton audio binding posts and a new pair of Klipsch woofers into the Heresy ones. So I'm going to show you some photos, take you through the process of the installation of both the binding posts and the woofers, and then at the very end, we'll talk about how they sounded. So the first thing I'd like to do today is introduce you to these Klipsch Heresy ones. Here is a picture of the Heresy ones in my original listening room after I discovered what a soundstage was. You can see them on the floor, obviously, with a little 8-inch monoprice woofer, subwoofer in the middle, and my Cambridge system on the top of the table there. And I had just begun to experiment with damping the room, and so I had some inexpensive picture frames. Went down to Walmart, got some gel foam bed toppers, cut them up, and just began experimenting with what damping might sound like, and that was a lot of fun. And here are the Heresies from another angle. That birch really goes well. That first generation birch goes really well with the rug that's in the room, and you can see I was continuing to experiment with damping. So got some additional dampers there, and just gives you an idea of what the journey's been like along the way of experimenting with soundstage, and you also get to see the Heresies as well. In this photo, you can see the Heresy is sitting face down on the operating table, if you will. So she is getting ready to go under the knife for some improvements. And here we can see with the back off, we can see what the speakers look like on the inside. If you saw any of my previous videos, I had shared that this was the first pair of speakers that I had done some dampening on. And you can see the aluminum seal tape on some locations inside the cabinet. The seal tape is underneath the gel foam toppers as well as on the legs of the woofer basket. Just while we're still talking about damping, just wanted to give you a better picture of the horns with the damping material, a little bit on the underside of the roof there, and the red tape on the Kreitz tweeter replacements, which love those things. Kreitz products are awesome, by the way. The red tape is actually just some 3M double-sided sticky tape. That stuff has some weight to it, so I just wanted to put some of that on the tweeters, and it did just fine. One other quick angle of the horns, just another angle to look at if you'd like to see that. Have the back off, as you can see, and these are the wires coming from the crossover to the steel metal bolts that are going through the back there. So that is what the electrical signal, our signal path, is going through, is a couple of bolts. Just one other one other picture just to see what the signal was coming through. You know, I keep calling that a bolt. It may be a screw. I know you have to screw it in, but there you go. Okay, getting close to installing the Dayton audio binding posts. As you can see, the two holes are drilled out here. Older parts removed. There's a little circle in between the two drilled out holes. That's where one of the original holes was, but I filled that with plastic wood, and getting ready to put a small sliver of that aluminum seal tape over that just for good measure. The previous photo was drilled from the outside in. This is the inside, and it was on this side that I put the little sliver of aluminum seal tape. And these are the Dayton audio binding posts that are about to be installed. Let you take a look at those. Let me pull up a picture of what they look like in the packaging. These are the binding posts in the packaging as they came from Parts Express. I think these were somewhere between $12 and $13, not very expensive. The nuts definitely are magnetic. Posts themselves, I don't believe, were the little magnetic picker-upper thingy that you use under the hood of the car. Did not detect a magnetic draw to the posts themselves, but they did the the nuts. Here is a picture of the binding posts installed and connected. I did not solder them and use heat shrink at this time. I do have a pair of Sonocap capacitors that I'll use to replace the old oil-filled capacitors. Okay, as you can see, those big two oval-shaped cylindrical pieces of metal, those are the capacitors, I believe. And these older Heresies are notorious for having these oil-filled capacitors leak. So far, I have not seen any indication of these leaking, but they are made in the mid-70s, so they probably could use replacing, and I'll be putting Sonocaps in these before long. When I do that, I will solder and use the heat shrink on the binding post, clean that up, and keep the air from getting to the speaker wires. Just wanted to mention also that this is the wiring that I use to connect to the binding post to the crossover 16 gauge oxygen free copper. So that gives you an idea so far of what's going on inside the speakers relating to installing the new binding posts. And now I thought we would go over new woofers that are being installed. So these are the speaker on the right. That is the new woofer from Klipsch that has the 4-inch voice coil that currently goes into the new generation Heresies compared to the original Heresy 1 12-inch woofer with the 2-inch voice coils. And there is the woofer installed into the cabinet before putting the aluminum seal tape on the legs of the woofer basket. And there's the finished product. What do you think? I think she looks beautiful. So there's the Heresy 1 with the new woofer installed. You can take a look at that. Sounds great. Love those K55 horns. Very nice drivers. Very clean. And here she is from the back side. You can see the binding posts installed. They look fantastic. At some point, I hope to refinish these. They definitely deserve it. That original birch has got some wear and tear, some stains, and could use some sanding and refinishing. And then they would look as good as they sound. And that wraps up looking at the speakers themselves with the photos. This project had two goals, and we met both of those. Number one, we cleaned up the signal path, put in some new binding posts, got rid of those old metal junky parts that the signal was going through, and then secondly, we installed some new woofers. There were noticeable improvements in the sound from the low end all the way to the top end. With the addition of the new woofers, the low end was much more robust, and of course with the improved signal path, the mid-range and upper range frequencies improved significantly as well. Much cleaner, more clear, more detail, and more refined. The bottom line here is that with the Heresy 1s, the Dayton Audio banana plugs did make a very positive difference, and for only $12 to $13, I would definitely recommend those. And with the new woofers having the 4-inch voice coil, there was definitely some noticeable difference on the low end as well. Overall, I think today's project was a success, especially for the low cost of those Dayton Audio binding posts, $12 or $13, and these woofers were not that bad as well. So if you have gotten this far in the video and you've enjoyed the content, hope you wouldn't mind clicking the like button and subscribing as well. Thank you again for tuning in, and hope to see you next time. Have a great day.